Now it is my honor to introduce your commencement speaker, Sophia. Sophia is a New York-based journalist and video director and a 2013 graduate of our Department of Fashion Design and Merchandising. She launched her career as the first entertainment media editor at Vogue.com, where she created and shaped Vogue's social and digital voice. Today, her focus lies in authentic and digital storytelling and reporting for media outlets, editorial, and brands. Throughout her career, Sophia has paved her own way, shaping a vision for conscious content that doesn't follow existing models of journalism. This ability to flourish in the spaces in between, Sophia says, is one she solidified at VCU Arts, where her fashion professors encouraged her to get involved and try as many different opportunities as possible. She was able to work on the annual fashion show, take photography courses, study abroad and minor in media studies, and land a trend forecasting internship in New York. These experiences, coupled with the constant encouragement of her professors, expanded what she thought was possible and helped her create a path where one didn't yet exist. It is a privilege to invite her back to VCU Arts today. Class of 2019, please join me in offering a warm welcome to Sophia.
Art and design school in the country. Congratulations. Also, just in time before the new decade, I would like to thank VCU School of the Arts Interim Dean Nancy Scott and the Fashion Design and Merchandising Department for having me as the commencement speaker for this graduating class. I'm so honored to be back here at my alma mater. We would not all be here if it weren't for our parents and families. Graduating class, could we please give our parents and families a round of applause for their love and support to make it to this day. So, my parents are here too, and I'm sure they're much happier at this graduation compared to my actual graduation day 7 years ago when I didn't have a job lined up nor any idea what I was going to do with my life. To all the doubtful parents out there still concerned for your child graduating with an arts degree, I would like to say that if there is only one thing you remember from my speech today, it is this: right brains, aka creatives, will rule this world. New York Times best-selling author Daniel Pink wrote an entire book on this subject, A Whole New Mind, Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the Future. He stated in the book that an MFA will be more valuable than an MBA as outsourcing, automation, and artificial intelligence replaces lawyers, doctors, and accountants, but will never be able to replace the unique talent of the creatives I see before my eyes. You, my friends, are the future. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I was trying to think back to my own graduation day, and it was, as with most exciting days, one big blur. So I would like to take this time right now to lead us through a quick 3-breath meditation so we can all be present during such an important day. Students, parents, faculty, distinguished guests, I invite you to close your eyes and firmly plant your feet on the ground to down on your lap. Take a deep breath in here through your nose and hold it here for 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. Let it out with a sigh through your mouth. Ooh. Take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it here for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it out with a bigger sigh through your mouth. Last deep breath in through your nose, and we're going to hold it here for 5 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let it out with the biggest sigh you have ever let out. Woo! That feels good, yeah? I understand these speeches are supposed to highlight the successes of my life, but I'm actually going to tell you 3 stories that involve failure. The first story is about how our weaknesses can be our greatest strength, even our superpower. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. When I was 2 years old, I lived with my grandparents in China as my parents were finishing their PhD programs and were also financially strapped and raising my older sister. Right before I turned 4, I moved back to Minnesota with my parents. When I was 7, we moved to Memphis, Tennessee. San Antonio, Texas was home for 3 years during middle school before moving to Charlottesville, Virginia for high school. I had a late start learning English and was enrolled into school right after moving to the States from China as a 4-year-old, as my mom retaught me my ABCs. I was always dubbed the new kid at school, and for years and years would receive a "doesn't live up to her potential" mark on my average grade report cards. So here's the thing about failure. Failure doesn't have to be a specific event or a moment in time. It could be an ongoing narrative in your head. If enough people call you a failure, you can start believing in it. But when I started to realize at VCU, surrounded by a support system of professors who truly believed in me, shout out to Mrs. Arrington, Ms. Guthrie, just to name a few, and a fresh environment where standardized testing was thrown out of the window, my weaknesses became my biggest strengths and now have become my superpower. I tell stories for a living now. I interview names from Pharrell Williams to Celine Dion to Nobel Peace Prize recipients. I listen so intently and engage with my interviewers because when I first started school in the US, I had trouble communicating in English, so I just had to listen. Because I was always the new kid at school, I understand the social nuances as an adult to make someone feel at ease off the bat and turn strangers into friends. And I stopped listening to what others had to say about me, such as doesn't live up to potential, and started to listen to myself. The strongest thing you can rely on is your belief system. The belief that you are talented, you are capable, and the belief that your weaknesses can be your strengths and actually your superpower. My second story is how passion will never be reached the first time, or the second time, or the third time. Everyone who knows me solely through the lens of social media thinks my career trajectory has been one smooth ride. So I get a lot of DMs from college grads on Instagram asking me what my exact path was so they can follow in my footsteps. So I tell them, if you truly want to follow my footsteps, here's what you should do. Move to New York 2 months after graduation on an internship whim. Sleep in a triple bunk bed with 6 other people in the same room for a few months as you find an apartment. Go to your internship from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then go to your restaurant job from 6:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. 5 days a week. Quit the internship to Chermond to find a paying job. Interview and get rejected 3 times from your dream magazine company. Interview again another 7 more times. Get hired on as a part-time freelancer. Become full-time a year later after working consecutive 60 to 80-hour weeks. Quit the dream job after almost 4 years without another job or health insurance lined up. Keep fighting for your passion, and well, here I am now. What people don't see on social media is how many rejections and failures I had. before even landing a temporary freelance position at Vogue that eventually turned into the start of my career. They say the hardest job to get is always your first job. That's definitely true. They also say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's actually more like, do what you love and you'll work harder more than you ever had before. And then sometimes people reply to my long-winded answer on Instagram, and they're like, maybe I won't take that path. I'll just take another path. And I'm like, yes, duh, take your own path. When it comes to your passion, there's no one right path, and there's definitely not an easy route. Sure, we all want to be at the end of the finish line. We all want to be at the commencement speaker podium. But do we want to put in the hours of dedication, of hard work and sacrifice to get here? Truly ask yourself that. And if you're willing to sacrifice it, remember this. It's always easier to sacrifice at the beginning than at the end. You don't have as much to lose when you first start the career journey, so risk it all for what you believe in. I remember when I was at VCU, my friends in pre-med would tell me that the program would purposely schedule the hardest pre-med and biology courses at 8 a.m. in the morning just to weed out anyone who's not serious about the program. You failing the first and second and third time and having perseverance is the universe's way of weeding out those who are not serious about pursuing their passions. Also, understand that when you fail, you only fail upwards, never backwards. So keep fighting, as you'll never reach your passion the first, second, or third time, and there's no one right path to take except your own. My third story is about following the fear. I understand that this time in your life right now seems exciting, yet incredibly scary. It's funny how for the first 20 years of our lives, society dictates every step we should take to be functioning, successful adults. Go to elementary school, then go to middle school, go to high school, major in something you remotely like in college. Get a good job, and voila, you made it. Easy, right? Except this linear model does no longer exist. You'll see after you graduate, the lives of your classmates sitting next to you will explode in a million different directions. Some will get married and pop out children before you even get your first job, and that's okay. Everyone says to follow your passion, but I have come to learn to follow the fear. It was the May of 2017. I had flown straight from the Met Gala, yes, where I took that infamous Met Gala selfie, to Stockholm, Sweden, and back to New York, and immediately to LA. From LA, I flew to Kyoto and then Tokyo, and then Tokyo back to New York. This was all for work. It was my 8th flight at the end of a very long month, and I was finally flying to my sister's wedding, where I was the maid of honor and ready to disconnect. As we were taking off, the right engine of the plane caught on fire.
Oh.
The alarms went off and the chutes were deployed as we started to smell smoke. We slid down the chutes and then ran to safety in case the fire caused the plane to explode. We weren't supposed to take any valuables with us, but the only thing I rescued was my maid of honor speech. I was interviewed for Good Morning America, and major press outlets like CNN covered the incident. A few days later, I realized that I wasn't scared of dying in the moment, although that was the closest I've ever been to death. I was more terrified that I would miss out on experiencing my sister's wedding, and I was also scared of this thought that I had kept pushing down and swallowing, refusing to acknowledge. But what would happen if you left Vogue? Sometimes, because we fought so hard to reach the first dream, we don't allow ourselves to move on to the second dream that life has planned for us. Dreams expire, and oftentimes the dreams that are waiting for us is actually masked in fear. I was too scared to admit to myself that I wanted to pursue a career outside of the security and prestige of Vogue. I knew I had always wanted to leave for a while, but was too scared to leap until I physically had to leap onto a slide out of a plane that was on fire. If you don't jump, the universe will somehow make you jump either way. The thing is, we are not scared of death. We are scared of not experiencing everything we wanted to do and accomplish in this life. I read this quote that summed up my definition of fear spot on. Someone once told me that the definition of hell, the last day you have on this earth, the person you became will meet the person you could have become. I'm going to wrap up this speech by asking everyone, and parents and faculty included, to close their eyes again. I want everyone to list out silently in their head, everyone that they love. You may now open your eyes. Did anyone list themselves as loving themselves? Everyone says my generation and the next, the millennials and Gen Z, are selfish and entitled. I actually think the opposite. I think we care almost too much for this world and the society we are entering. Look at the incredible youth leading the climate movement. Self-love isn't selfish. Self-love is necessary. I believe radical self-love will be the solution to so many of our modern-day problems. Loneliness, climate change. When we have respect for ourselves, we have respect for Mother Nature. Marginalized communities, when we see ourselves as wholly human, we can recognize that in anyone, even if they're halfway across the world or in our backyards. And now, as I studiously watch every airplane safety video, remember that we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before helping others. Validation will never come from a job title. Validation will never come from a paycheck. And it definitely will not come from how many followers you have on social media. True validation has to come from within. So please take this moment, graduates, to thank yourself for getting yourself to this monumental day. Graduates, I invite you to stand up. And I want you to say this statement, you can scream it too, as loudly as you can. Thank you, and state your own name. And now, I want you to hug and congratulate the person next to you. Yes! And congratulate the person in front of you and behind you. These classmates one day will be your colleagues, employees, and may even be your boss. Don't lose touch. And thank your professors, parents, and family as well. Graduates, remember that weakness can be your greatest strength and even your superpower. Passion will never come the first, second, or third time, and follow your fears. Congratulations, class of 2019, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophia, for those very inspiring words. And now, the moment we've been waiting for. Would Sarah Wilson McKay please come up to the stage? We'd like to ask candidates from art education to step forward. The candidate for art education, PhD in education with a focus on art education, Ginger Green, PhD, art education.
Yes. Woo!
The candidates for the Master of Art Education, Patrick Carter, Miranda Clayton, Jolie Day,
Yes, Jolie.
Hannah Neifert, For the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Art Education, Julianne Alvarez. Sarah Conkis. Azure Davis. Savannah Smith. Now I'd like to call Charles Blake up to the stage, please, for art history. For the PhD in art history, Sasika Turkja. For the PhD in media, art, and text, Tracy Stone Street. For the Bachelor of Arts in Art History, Virginia Moore. Jocelyn Hawkins. Hannah Von Buskert. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Ty Ruby Ellington up to the stage. Yes! For receiving the candidates of the Bachelor of Arts in Cinema. Usha Roach. Kyle Keys. Clara Whitlow. Yashia Brunel. Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Communication Arts. Bailey Chaser. Madison Stutes.
You better go, Madison! Yes!
Mabel Barreto. Colin Sturt. Kelsey Dvorak. Gwendolyn Kelly. Anna Noren. Eunice Park. Emily Butcher. Vim Shaw. Ruth Walston. Bailey Benyon. Tori Roundtree. Albert Winfield III.
Baby, real quick.
Lauren Hannibal.
Yeah! Oh, come on.
Abigail Gerber.
The guy put his head in the way. Oh my goodness.
Elizabeth McCowan. Samantha Newman. Cindy Roman. Tiffany Yon. Jelani Ellis. Bongwon Koo. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Susan Gottschalk for Craft Material Studies. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Craft Material Studies please come forward? Taylor Leggett. Abigail Wooten. Jocelyn Humphreys. Sierra Leach. Catherine Trent. Joanna Patsy. Jennifer Deluxe. Shihao Bai. Nan O. Thank you. I'd now like to call Courtney Harris, please, to come on the stage. The candidates for dance and choreography, the Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Video at the same time. Or I got
Madeline Blomfitt. Catherine Howell. Jonah Frankie Fuller. Michelle Colconi. Veronica DeRoja.
Whole team here, for real. Whole team can put that role.
Matthew Schreier. Detrital Christian. Kayla Smith.
We love you, Kayla! All the way.
Catherine Kreider. Stephanie Strong. Thank you. Now I'd like to call David Shields. For the candidates for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design, please. Leah Agger. Megan Buckley. Madison Biebler. Darren Gainza. Cody Hopper. Jayu Lee. Marlia Wong. Tommy Ryan. Julia Straley. I'd now like to call Stephen Vitzmiller to the stage, please.
Yes, guys. Yes.
For the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Kinetic Imaging, candidates please come forward.
That's my friend.
Tanner Miller.
Yes, Will. I will.
Kayla Reimer. Emma Garegi. Thank you. Now I would like to call up John Pettigula, please.
Yes.
Papa Music.
Yes, Shy.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Music please come forward? Julio Taylor.
My baby.
Robert Williamson III. From the Department of Music, candidates for the Bachelor of Arts in Music, Emily Horton. Shaheen. I'd now like to call Phyllis Simpless to the stage, please. Wei J. Chen. Natalie Kirby. Morgan Phelps. Shalina Mitchell. Nora Nego. Thank you. Now I'd like to call up Justin James Reed from the Department of Fire. The candidates for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Fire Field, please come forward. Kimberly Kelly. Henry Bogata. Thank you. Now at this time, I'd like to call up Mary Eisendrath from the Department of Sculpture and Extended Media. The candidates for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Sculpture and Extended Media, please come forward. Ellington Braun.
Yes, Boots.
Solon Machado. Temple Lucy Glasscock. Cassie Sheedy. Jules Wright. Anthony D'Angelo. Scarlett Zhao. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Sharon Ott to come forward, please, from the Department of Theater. The candidates for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater, please come forward.
Yes, Will. With the boots. Yes. Yes.
Lydia Hines. Carly Scoutsmith. Javi Nguyen. Abigail Kitchbo.
Yes.
Megan Pelanchizo. Rachel Marie Feller. And now continuing in theater for the Bachelor of Arts in Theater. The candidates please come forward. Jacob Kenneth Tom.
Didn't put it together.
He walked across the whole stage.
Well, no. I mean, I wasn't looking at his boots. I was looking at his face.
It is now my great honor to present to you the VCU School of the Arts class of 2019. It's time to celebrate.
Thank you.